Okay, I'm going to go over this quiz that we had today. Now, the whole idea about using trig is the idea that if two triangles are similar, now this is from the review that I went over in class, and if two triangles are similar, then their corresponding sides are proportional and their corresponding angles are congruent. And this leads us to the whole definition of what it means for trigonometry to work. So if I have BC and BA, that ratio, it's always going to be the same as the corresponding sides of the other triangle, EF over ED. We call this the sine property, the sine function, opposite over hypotenuse. So we don't need numbers to compare anything on triangles. So what I'm looking at here is this says two similar right triangles are shown below, which means that the corresponding sides are proportional and the angles are the same. So if this is 25 degrees and this is 90, this has to be 65 degrees. This is 90, this is 65, and this has to be 25 degrees. So it says, without using your calculator, determine which value is larger. Tan of Q, I'm just going to write some stuff in, or tangent of L. Well, notice the angles are exactly the same. Okay? So the value of tan Q and tan L are the same. Neither is larger. Okay? They're both the same. Now, a lot of you, a majority of you got this one correct, but when it came to this one, which value is larger? Tan of J, okay, or the measure of QR, here is QR, over the measure of SR. Now, because this one was larger, a lot of you said that the measure of QR over the measure of SR is larger because the triangle is larger. Again, these are ratios. So the tan of J is the opposite over the adjacent. KL over KJ. But guess what happens if we do tan of S? The tan of S is opposite over adjacent, QR over QS. So they're both tan. The values are the same again. Neither one's larger. So I don't need measurements to determine that. I don't need to know how long each one is. The ratios are always going to be the same when we're looking and comparing the same thing on each one. And then this last one. Use a calculator to determine the value of tan S. What is S? S is 25. So what is the value using a calculator of tan 25? Some of you overthought this. All you have to do is hit tan 25. Well, make sure my mode's correct. Tan 25 is 0.47. I just rounded it off. You can call it 0.466. You can call it 0.5. Either one of those I would have taken as the correct answer, but that's it. That's all you had to do on that one. Now, I'm going to switch over and look at this picture first because it's better than the one on the paper, but I put this on the board. As two boats, so here's a boat, here's a boat, are coming to the end of the race, a top view of their position is shown in the diagram below. Both boats are approaching the finish line at an angle. Okay, they're approaching the finish line at an angle. So they're not going straight towards the thing, they're going at an angle. At the moment shown, the left boat is a little closer to the finish line. It's 100 meters away, where the one on the right is 110 meters away. Okay? So, on the other hand, the right boat has an advantage because it is moving more directly toward the finish line, 22 degrees instead of 20 degrees. So, the question is, the boat follows the path. Here's the path shown at the same speed, which will cross the finish line first. So just because this one is closer doesn't mean it's going to get there first, even going by the same speed, because there's a different angle. So here's what you need to do. I redrew those triangles. I'm wanting to know which one gets on their path faster. Now, the picture clearly shows that this is 20 degrees. We never use this angle. We only use the angles on the inside of the triangle. So this doesn't have anything listed. However, I do know that this is a 90-degree angle. If this on the outside is 20, this on the inside has to be 70. This on the outside is 22, then this on the inside has to be 68. So now I'm finding what I have. This is the hypotenuse. The leg farthest away from my angle that I'm working with is opposite. And the leg right next to it is adjacent. Circle the information I have. I have hypotenuse and adjacent. So looking at SOHCAHTOA, which one am I going to use? Opposite and adjacent is cosine. So cosine of 70 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay. Because x is in the denominator, I switch. X equals 100 divided by cosine of 70. So I'm going to do 100 divided by cosine of 70. So, I can take this several ways. I mean, 292.4, 292, either one, I just keep it like this, 292 meters. No big deal. Same thing over here. This is the hypotenuse. This is the opposite. And this leg is adjacent. So it's basically the same problem, except I'm saying cosine of 68, because that's my measure here, equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Because x is in the denominator, I switch. X equals 110 over cosine 68. So 110 divided by cosine of 68 is 293.6. Or you could even do 294. So which one had a shorter path to the finish line? The left-hand boat. Left boat wins. Write it correctly. Left boat wins. Shorter to go. But all I did was redraw the triangles. And you can't just stick 20 in here because it's not 20. Look, 20 is on the outside. That's this angle. I need this angle. 22 is on the outside. I needed this angle. And again, we're not looking for this. We're looking for this path that they're on. If the speed of each boat is 10 meters per second, then how long will it take in seconds for the losing boat to cross the finish line after the winning boat crosses? So, 10 meters a second. If I take 292 divided by 10 on the left boat, and it took 29.2 seconds. If I take 294 over here, okay, it took 29.4 seconds. And so the losing boat only lost by 0.2 seconds. Okay. All right, now this one. You have to draw the picture and understand what angle of elevation means and what angle of depression means. Elise is standing on top of a building. So let me draw a building. It's 50 feet tall. Here is Elise. And she sees her friend Molly walking on a street. Here is Molly. Okay? If Molly is 30 feet away from the base of the building, what is the angle of depression? Now remember, angle of depression, I have a sight line that I start out with. The angle of depression is this right here. It's from the sight line down. Angle of elevation is from sight line up. So this is the angle I'm looking at. And Elise's eye height is 4.5 feet. Some of you tried to put that on Molly. So here's the triangle I'm using because this is the angle I'm using. Well, I know how many feet this is. This is 30 feet. I know how many feet this is because the building is 50 and Elise is 4.5. This is 54.5 feet. Now, most of you stay down here at this triangle. But since it said specifically angle of depression, that's the one I'm looking for. So using this angle, this is the hypotenuse, this is opposite, this is adjacent. So the information I have is opposite and adjacent. So looking at SOHCAHTOA, opposite and adjacent is tan. So this is a tangent property, and I'm looking for an angle. So I'm going to say the inverse tan of opposite over adjacent. In my calculator, I'm going to do second tan opposite over adjacent. So I would have taken this answer several different ways, 61.17, 61.2, or I just wrote it down as 61 degrees. Now, if you did this, a lot of you got the answer of 29 degrees. And you still could have gotten the right answer if you knew which angle you're looking for. Because if this angle is 29, both of these angles have to add up to 90 degrees. So some people did that. They subtracted 29 from 90, and you would get 61. Okay, but you have to know which triangle you're using. All right, this one, we have a 60, 30, 90 degree triangle. So across from 30, is x. Across from 60, x square root of 3 across from the 90 is 2x. So when I draw my table out, here's what information I have. 3 square root of 3. So what's in the place of x? The 3. And then 2 of those is 6. So A is 6, B is 3. Okay. Then the last one, I have x, x, x square root of 2 because it's a 45-degree angle. Okay, now don't get confused because we have multiple x's here. I just put that there to know that, I could put m square root of 2. But these both have to be the same. So if this is square root of 3 over 3, this also has to be square root of 3 over 3. Now, this one's a little bit harder. I know what x is. X is square root of 3 over 3. So I'm just going to replace that x with here. Okay? And all you're doing, when I combine square roots, I'm just multiplying them together. 3 times 2 is 6. So there are the answers. So you're going to have a chance to retake this on Friday. So be sure you study this. Be sure you go back and study this. Understanding the big one. The whole reason that trigonometry works is because the corresponding sides are proportional, the ratios are the same, the corresponding angles are congruent. And this leads us to the definition of trig ratio.